Ward, Ndaragwa constituency, Nyandarua County. The incident occurred while Nyandarua Senator John Methu was addressing the crowd, causing a brief disruption during the event. Speaking after the situation was brought under control, Gachagua expressed his disappointment, stating that it was deeply unfortunate that police officers who are meant to provide security were responsible for disrupting a peaceful gathering. He described the actions of the police as clear attempt to intimidate those present at the event. In his address, Gachagua emphasized that the people of the Mount Kenya region would not be silenced by such actions. He made it clear that the region would continue to voice its concerns and criticism against the government, especially regarding the unfulfilled promises made by President William Ruto during his campaign.
You cannot govern people by force, and you cannot force them to do what you want. Mutaongea na hao wa Kenya, mjue nini mewakasirisha, you address that problem. Hii maneno ya kuharibu mikutano ni maneno imepitwa na wakati. Na hata mkiharibu mikutano, hii watu wako nyumbani na kura sawa wanakaa tu. Na mimi niseme, hata mkiharibu mikutano, hata mkituma vijana wakuja na mapanga, hata mkikuja na tear gas, hii watu yote walitoka kwa UDA. Kule modo tikaleta UDA goko? Wangapi walitoka kwa UDA? Sasa inakuwa ni wakati mnapoteza. Ni wakati mnapoteza. Sisi tuko na kazi ya barabara hapa imesimama. Sisi na hao viongozi ya kina Methu na wengine wale ambaye ni wazalendo tutaendelea kupigania hizi barabara. Tutaendelea kupigania stima kwa sababu ni haki yetu. Na ni lazima tufanyiwe kazi kwa sababu tunalipa kodi. Siko namna hiyo.
Sisi kama wa Kenya tunajiuliza maswali. Watoto wetu wanashikwa na kuuawa. Pia kazi inarushiwa naibu wa rais wa pili. Hawana heshima. Haya ni mambo ambayo tuliyaona miaka 30 iliyopita wakati wa Moi. Sasa mimi mnashindwa hawa watu kutoka sehemu hiyo kwa sababu Moi alitunyanyasa. Sasa William Ruto anatunyanyasa. Je, hawa watu kutoka eneo hilo wako na shida gani?
Na Wakikuyu wanataka kumaliza Wakikuyu.
Haiwezekani. Ni nini kinawasumbua?
Right, moving on, residents of Nyakach constituency staged a protest outside the Nyandarua courts demanding the detention of a serial assault suspect, Zacchaeus Juma, who they claim has been terrorizing the community with violent attacks. The demonstration was sparked by Juma's recent appearance in court following accusations of assaulting Kashon Oluoch Akuku, who he allegedly chopped off the hand with a machete on October 30th of 2024. In Katito town, the protesting residents expressed frustrations over what they described as pattern of assaults committed by Juma, who they claim has been repeatedly released on bond with the help of a political figure in the constituency. They argue that the suspect's action have caused widespread fear and suffering in the area, and that his repeated releases have undermined efforts to maintain law and order. Juma, who was arraigned at Nyandarua courts, faces serious charges stemming from the attack on Akuku. The victim's hand was severed during the assault, which occurred at approximately 10 a.m. in the bustling town of Katito.
Kuna wale ambao wanaua watoto wa wenzao. Na hiyo si hatia nzuri. Nasema ya kwamba hata kuna mmoja alitolewa huko Nairobi, alikuwa ameenda kujificha Nairobi. Polisi wakatita wakamtafuta mpaka wakampata. Na sasa hivi wamempeleka kotini. Alafu wanataka kumtoa kupitia bond. Na ako na bonds anapita, akikuja anatolewa, akikuja anatolewa.
Wanasiasa wanatumia wana youth, wanaua watu huko Nyakachi. Lakini akisashikwa akaletwa kotini hapa, anatolewa na bond. Hata leo tumesikia uvumi, fununu inakuja ya kwamba ati kuna 200,000 ya bond yenye imeletwa hapa kwa court. Sasa tunaomba ya kwamba prosecutors, please don't allow that bond. Msichukue pesa, akitolewa hapa, akirudi Nyakach bado ataua watu.
We are appealing to court that he should not be released, because when he's released, tomorrow another person will die. Today another person will die. So we are tired of burying our people.
All right, moving on, tensions flared between President Ruto's newly appointed head of creative economy, Dennis Itumbi, and Manyata MP Gitonga Mukunji during the premiere of the movie Birthday Girl at Winter Villa Resort in Embu. The two leaders sharply disagreed on key issues, including the regulation of social media and the ongoing problem of abductions in the country. MP Mukunji, who spoke first, criticized the government's approach to handling young people's use of social media, as well as the recent spike in abduction. He condemned the failure of security agencies to protect young social media users, stating that the government's assurances were inadequate until those who had gone missing were severely were safely returned. Mukunji also took aim at the negative impact of social media, urging political leaders to follow former President Uhuru Kenyatta's example by distancing themselves from the platform if they could not manage its misuse. Dennis Itumbi, the chief guest at the event, quickly responded, accusing MP Mukunji of protesting against the government he is part of. Itumbi challenged the MP to move beyond issuing ultimatums and focus on offering constructive solutions to problems such as abductions, which he assured were being actively investigated by authorities.
I want to take this platform to say that while we are condemning femicide, because this is a vice that we have to condemn critically, I also want to take this opportunity to condemn the abduction of our young people because of social media. Today, as we are here, Dennis, a young man by the name Billy Mwand, we don't know where he is. His parents don't know where they are. Don't know where he is. Billy is a young man of 24 years. From the history I've been told by the father, he is a brilliant young man that schooled here in Lyons, then went to Birori High School, and he went to the university. I just want to call upon the government. I have listened to the president, I have listened to the DCI, I have listened to the police, NPS, National Police Service. We will not accept an answer that abduction can happen and we don't get an answer. We will not accept that. I will not accept that. The government knows where that young man is. And tafadhali, because I also want to condemn issues of using social media in a bad way. But there is the rule of law. When you make a mistake, you have to be taken to court and you have to be charged. But you cannot be abducted. You cannot be abducted.
I hear the challenge that that the government must know where these people are. But Mukunji, to be fair, there were about 15 robberies in Embu yesterday. I know that because I passed by the Embu police station to say hi to a friend of mine who was transferred here. And I asked him what, I was looking at the OB, there were 15 robberies. Those robberies happened, even if government is there, even if you are the MP. You don't know all the robberies that were done. However, after they were done, there is an investigation. Things happen in any government, that's why you have prisons. Because some people do bad things. We have just watched a movie about femicide. Some people beat their wives, their girlfriends, and they kill them. Government cannot stop every crime that is happening, but government must investigate. I can assure you, I will always tweet and defend President William Samoei Ruto. Because I work for government.
What were you trying to tell us?
All right, moving on, Turkana South Member of Parliament John Ariko will spend the weekend in Eldoret's main prison after failing to secure bail at the Eldoret law courts on Friday. The MP faces multiple charges, including assault, false abduction, and preventing the execution of a police process, among others. Ariko, along with 9 other individuals, was arraigned in court after his arrest on Thursday evening. The charges stem from a series of incidents that have caught the attention of local authorities. Despite being initially released on a free bond after his detention at Eldoret police station, the court declined to grant bail, and Ariko was remanded until Monday, when the ruling on his bail application will be delivered at 2:30 p.m. All right, moving on, Gen Z youth in Mombasa County have issued an urgent call for the release of their colleagues who were abducted, warning the government that they will stage massive demonstrations if the youth are not freed within 24 hours. Led by activist Walid Sketi, the youth condemned the abductions, accusing the government of failing to take a clear stance on who is responsible. They specifically called out former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for not providing more concrete information on the individuals involved, instead of offering vague references. Lydia Adhiambo, another prominent Gen Z activist, demanded the President William Ruto clarify the situation and take immediate action. She also called for the resignation of Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja for failing to ensure the safety of Kenyans. The group, speaking at Haki Africa offices in Mombasa, also launched a Stop Abduction initiative urging citizens to conduct civil arrests and document individuals involved in the abductions for legal action.
Serikali inajikanganya katika maneno yake. Juzi tulimsikia Musalaya Mudavadi akisema ya kwamba serikali iliweza kufacilitate wale Kitengela 3 wakaweza kuachiliwa kwa familia zao. Hivi tunawauliza, kuna katiba gani nyingine ya Kenya ambayo inaweza kusema ya kwamba mtu anaweza kuzuiliwa kwa siku 32 bila kuweza kupata haki, bila kuweza kupelekwa kotini, alafu apelekwe kwa familia yake? Haya maneno ni ithibati tosha ya kwamba serikali inajua yale mambo ambayo yanaendelea.
Osama Otero mwenye unaambia watu maandamano ni tarehe 6, maandamano ni tarehe 30. Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Kimani Ichung'wah, who you are telling people that we should be arrested. Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Rigathi Gachagua mwenye unatuambia you know these places but you're not telling us. Shame on you.
Shame on you.
And we want to tell you, these people, you're wearing capes, these abductors, you're wearing leather jackets, mnavaa kama tunawatambua. Kwa hivyo tunaambia wananchi, ukiona mtu yoyote ambaye ameshikwa, ukiona mtu yoyote ambaye anavutwa na magari si inaitwaje? Si Subaru peke yake. Tunaona pia Probox mnazitumia. So we know you're going to change the way you're going to abduct people. And we are very, very disappointed with you, Mr. President. You cannot come out yesterday and tell us, now tunaenda kuachilia wale watu. And then the statement ya polisi, you're telling us that you don't know what is happening. Shame on you, all these people.
Kuja hapa kupiga magoti, tumechoka kubembeleza this government. We are demanding, and if you do not act on Monday, tutakuwa streets.
Tunafaa kwenda streets on Monday.
Tutaenda streets, we will act, and there will not be peace in this country. And we are coming for each and every person who comes with this amevaki civilian kutuambia yeye ni polisi na kushika mtu. We will take actions on our hand because we are the people. And the people are the ones who have the power. Who are the people?
We are the people.
When the government says that, si hao wanashika watu. Kwa nini watu ambao wanashikwa ni watu ambao wanaongelelea government, the way they are not implementing, venye wanatuoppress kwa hii country, venye wanataka kuturudisha back to Moi era. Mbona watu wenye wanaongelelea end femicide hawashikwi, lakini wanapigwa kwa streets? Mbona watu wenye wanaongelelea vitu zingine hawashikwi, lakini ukikuja nje leo, ukiongelelea venye government inatudhulumu, inatunyanyasa in this country, they are coming for you. We are walking in fear, and we are tired of walking in fear.
Down with abductions, down.
Down. When we lose our fear,
they lose their power.
Alright, still in matters abductions, National Assembly Deputy Majority Leader Owen Baya made a heartfelt plea for an end of the rising cases of abductions targeting social media influencers, urging the country's constitutional freedoms be upheld. Baya was speaking at the burial of Bishop James Kahindi Zero, the senior pastor of Malindi Pefa Church in Teso Ward, Kilifi County. Baya condemned the ongoing abductions, calling the practice unconstitutional and direct threat to the democracy Kenyans fought for. He expressed deep concerns over the alarming trend of young people being forcibly taken in broad daylight, blindfolded, and transported to unknown locations. He appealed to the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, that is the DCI, and the police, and the National Police Service, NPS, and other security agencies that he suspected might be involved in the abductions, urging them to immediately halt these actions.
Nikiona watu wanakuwa abducted, I feel very bad. Because that's not the democracy we fought for. Nikiona vijana wanashikwa na hawajulikani wameenda wapi, mimi nasikia vibaya kwa sababu hiyo sio katiba ya Kenya. hiyo mimi nataka niwaambie wale ambao wamepewa mamlaka DCI na National Police Service na wale wote wamepewa mamlaka, tafadhalini, kama kuna watu ambao wanapanga kushika wananchi wengine na kuabduct, I will tell you here in Kilifi, you must stop. Kenyans must remain free and a democratic and constitutional state, this country. Kwa hiyo kama mtu amepewa kazi na yeye ana mori ya kufanya, nataka kufanya, this country is God's country, is a democratic country, is a constitutional country that must be respected. Ili hii nchi progress, tusonge mbele. Shida zitakuwa nyingi hapa na pale, but no one has a right over the life of another apart from God. Mimi hiyo ndiyo naamini. Kwa hiyo mimi nataka kuambia wale askari, wale ambao wanataka, achaneni na hii maneno ya kushika na kuvalisha vizuizi watu kufanya nini. Stop this thing. Wacha Wakenya wakue na amani yao na sheria yao ya katiba na uhuru wao wa kikatiba.
Right, and before we wrap up our bulletin here at EBN Weekend Edition, as I promised you earlier, we have a special feature. And over 60 young people died between the period of June and August, and scores injured in what was described as Kenya's biggest turning point politically, the Gen Z protest. And as the year 2024 fades out in hours, Kenya continues to bear the brunt of an all-season political atmosphere, with the biggest litmus test of 2027 yet to come. Our political affairs reporter Cynthia Nanjala sat down with Ngugi Ndegwa from Ustawi Kenya, a youth leadership and governance group, to take stock of 2024, the year that was.
Imeisha. Wanajua pia wamelala.
All right, thank you very much, Ngugi Ndegwa from EBN Ustawi Kenya, for your time.
Thank you.
Now, what a year it has been, 2024. You know, there are some events which have really altered the political landscape, perhaps, you know, even for life. Now, I'd love us to stick back at June 25th. That was the date that the Finance Bill 2024 members of Parliament were voting on it. As well, we saw protests, which, you know, eventually led protesters inside Parliament, invading Parliament. But the build-up is what perhaps made, you know, a lot of questions on whether or not members of Parliament value, you know, the electorates, because there was the first reading, the second reading by members of Parliament. They voted yes on the bill. There were demonstrations which were witnessed across the country, putting pressure on MPs to vote no, but we saw what happened. So leading up to June 25th, on that particular day, what was your anticipation?
My anticipation was that we will see a listening president.
Right.
And also representatives of the people who know that truly it is their duty to do what the people who send them to Parliament send them to do.
Yes.
But I think there are things that we just anticipate, but the reality is different. And I think the reality is what hit us on 25th. That until the people decide to force the servants to do what they want, then that cannot be done.
Right.
Yes, and I think that is the reality of our politics, and that is what we saw on the 25th of June.
Right.
Yes.
Was if you look at the demonstrations, obviously, you know, the big, you know, effect would have been on the finance bill, but was this a build-up of various issues that had been, the decisions and policies that had been made by government before?
I believe that 25th of June was not only about the finance bill. Far from it, it is about a build-up of many issues that have been piling up, not just during this regime, but in the past regimes, and a build-up of historical injustices that we have seen, a build-up of young people, even not the Gen Zs alone, but also the millennials and those who are before us, young people who have for years been saying that they do not need to see police brutality, that they need to see more than they are getting, really. But again, we find that after what happened on the 25th of June, then you will realize that for a long time, even before this Katiba 2010, Kenyans have normalized that politics does not go past election. And I think that normalization is what we saw, the culmination of which we saw on the 25th, that people are tired. They are tired because they do not feel that the chapters 7 and 6 of the Constitution 2010 has really helped, because they do not see representatives that they hope to see, and they do not see integrity in the governments, and not just the government, but the governments that have come, the subsequent governments after the 2010 constitution. And so 25th was about many things. Yes.
And it was all happening real time. We were on our televisions and just taking stock of really what was happening. What was going through your mind as you were looking at the protests, which began early in the morning, a bit perhaps slower, then masses starting to come in, and then, in a blink of an eye, they're in parliament? What was going through your mind at that point?
What was going through my mind was that a time has really come. That the change, that the generation that we thought would change this country is here. And I think that is because of so many reasons. But on that particular day, what went through my mind was that we are here at last. And though it did not happen as I thought, because I thought maybe we will take a step further.
What do you mean? What do you mean a step further?
I thought we will take a step further and say, now enough is enough. We do not just need the cabinet to be changed. We need to see a change in the entire government. And when I say a change in the entire government, I mean from top, or from the executive. Yes, and even just in the awards, from bottom to uko juu kabisa. So I thought we will see a complete overhaul, where probably it will come from the president, who will admit by seeing the people taking back the power which belongs to the people, and the people representing themselves without waiting to be represented by the people they chose to parliament, then it means we are stateless. And when we are stateless, then it means we do not have a president legitimately. So I thought the president will take the initiative to say, in the event that now we have come to this situation, it is my duty to say that we should dissolve the parliament. And because I do not want to go out myself, I will recommend that we do a total overhaul of my government and send everyone home. And we send the parliament home, both houses home, and we send county assemblies home, and have a fresh election.
But for him to say that, putting in mind, there was a parliamentary group meeting just before they voted for this particular bill. So, doesn't need a lot of thinking really, but it was sort of like a direction from the Kenya Kwanza, top leadership, that this is how you're supposed to vote. So for him to now come and dissolve parliament, really, is the blame on parliament, or should the blame be on the executive?
The blame is on both of them. Because again, you find that it is a thin line, but ideally, according to the constitution, these three arms should be independent. The executive should work, the parliament should work, and the judiciary should work as independent arms of the government. There are instances where they are supposed to show collaboration in service. But again, it should not extend to the extent of seeing that the president is dictating what the parliament does for the people. But again, that is what we will hope for. But in reality, this is politics.
Right.
And so him doing what they did with the parliamentary group to make a decision on what the party stands for is common practice, because that is what we are used to.
Right.
And it happens all over the world. Because again, the parliamentary group and the party is meant to guide what the policies of the government of the day is.
Right.
And that is why they elected as a party. But again, it also shows that the president is misdirecting the parliament by way of having numbers in parliament. He misdirects the parliament on the decisions that they are making.
Right.
It shows that the parliament fears the president, their party leader, more than they are afraid of the people who elected them.
Yes.
And that is really dangerous.
Right.
It is a dangerous perspective for the people to hold. Because again, it inspires hopelessness in the people, it inspires helplessness, and it is likely to inspire anarchy.
Right.
Because if the people feel that they elected 3 groups, they elected the parliament, they elected the president, and they also elected the assemblies of the counties, but again they do not feel represented as they would have hoped, then there is really no need to have these people in place.
Right.
Yes.
And you know, later that night, the head of state addressed the nation.
Accordingly, I have directed all the organs of our national security to deploy measures to thwart any attempt by dangerous criminals to undermine the security and stability of our country. I assure Kenyans that we shall provide a full, effective, and expeditious response to today's treasonous events. Thank you.
And he termed the events of June 25th treasonous, and the subsequent military deployment of the KDF to the streets. The magnitudes of those words, terming those events treasonous. I mean, what did that mean at that point?
It meant loss of touch. Because if the president again was well informed, then it would have been on his part to know that he overreacted. The situation was not as dire. It was not as bad. And again, it begs the question why he would react in such a way to people who are not even armed. Because those who are protesting were unarmed. And again, those who are protesting were protesting within their rights to protest.
Right.
I think by all means he overreacted. However, we would want to see it he overreacted. And the use of terms such as treasonous only worked to show a president who is not in touch, and a president who would apply dictatorial antics, because it did not even have to get to that point.
Yeah.
In the first place, if he were to listen, and other leaders, not even him himself, but even other leaders under him, his ministers, his members of parliament from his party, his advisors, if they had listened, those who advise him, I believe they do advise him. If he had listened to the advice, or even if they did not advise him, if the advisors had seen it and advised him, then it wouldn't have gotten there. But getting there and him applying such force and even deploying the military, it also was too much force. And again, you know, in my opinion, this again is my opinion, I think the military should never be deployed upon the people which they should protect the borders of, because their work is to protect the territories of our land.
Yeah.
And seeing that they are using the same force that, or they were intended to use, though they did not use, they were intended to use the force they will use on our enemies as a country to the people that they should be protecting, then it is a bad show. It also shows a lot of insecurities on the part of our leadership, because if they feel that the police or probably the general service unit, which is supposed to contain protests, in the instances where they go out of hand, is unable to contain that, and they have now to employ the use of other servicemen, then it shows that there is a lot of insecurities and that they were caught off guard.
Right.
Which is getting caught off guard is a very bad show by the leadership, because again they should have people who are giving them intelligence and telling them that this direction is likely to lead to this. So I think generally it was a bad show.
Right.
Having reflected on the continuing conversation around the content of the Finance Bill 2024 and listening keenly to the people of Kenya who have said loudly that they want nothing to do with this Finance Bill 2024, I concede, and therefore I will not sign the 2024 Finance Bill, and it shall subsequently be withdrawn, and I have agreed with these members that becomes our collective position.
And so, perhaps took him 24 hours to really think about it and say, maybe I should actually withdraw the bill. Yes. And so, was that a sigh of relief now that, okay, the bill has been withdrawn, but still we saw 1 or 2 protests on the streets, still even after the withdrawal?
It was a sigh of relief, but again, not really, if you look at it this way. When before this happened, before this presser happened, we had seen members of parliament of a parliamentary group from which the president comes from, beating their chests and chest thumping and saying that we will not go this way. We have said that we will go this way, and we are leaders, and so if people are wrong, then we must do it even if they do not want to do it. And then we see a change of attitude when the president says now we have repealed this, and they start clapping, which shows really they are clueless.
And double standards?
Yes, double standards. And why will they appear to be happy if indeed they knew that this is really the direction that we should take?
Yes.
So it wasn't really a sigh of relief, but it was in one way, but on the other, it was a show that we have leaders who are clueless and that there is confusion. It is a bad thing for the people to see confusion in government.
Right.
Yes.
And that also set precedents for other actions which followed, like the dissolution of cabinet, the broad-based government. Prior to June 25th, was there anywhere in your mind where you'd think that those in opposition will now join government and now even preach what the government is preaching?
To be honest, I was not surprised, because I think our culture of politics is really faulty, and that is because we do not lean on policies, but we lean on self-interest.
Right.
And so it is not a shock that, and I expected it, because again, when all over the world, when governments feel that they are losing grip, then they employ very they employ such tactics. And so I expected that, and even what we have seen before, it is not the first time that we have seen the leader of opposition, His Excellency Honorable Raila Odinga, join government. In fact, it is in the open that he has always been in government.
Right.
He has always, in my opinion, he has always been in government, but holding the opposition office just for a show.
But this one was a bit different, no? Because there are those members of parliament who now got into cabinet.
Into cabinet.
Yeah.
And let me say, it did not shock me really, but it is really sad that the people cannot now make a difference between what these others were saying before and now what they are saying, because an opposition in reality should be a government in waiting. So if we have a government in waiting that has no difference with the government that we already have, then do we really have a future? Do we have an alternative? Because in reality, in actual sense, the opposition of the day should be showing an alternative, should be displaying an alternative leadership, which now we do not see. Apart from now, probably we might see that from the likes of Kalonzo Musyoka in the future.
Right.
But a lot has been happening on the background, and you will see even now. I think 2 days ago we saw, or I think 1 or 2 days ago we saw the president now having a conversation with the former president, meaning we might also see another purge on the opposition as it is now. We have Jubilee, because we had two sides of Jubilee, one side on the government and the other in the opposition, and very vibrant in the opposition. But it is to be desired that maybe in the future we might see, we don't know where they might lie now in the future, because if the contents of which we do not, which was discussed between the former and the current, we do not know. But again, there could be things that we could see, changes that we could see, or maybe we could see the remaining part of the opposition joining the government, and the people being left on their own. I think that is it.
Right. And as a Kenyan, taking stock of when this new broad-based cabinet came into the foray to now, has there been so much difference in terms of, you know, are you able to feel the difference of how they're working, the policies they're putting in place?
There is no difference. Because again, it is, as I had said, it is not about policies. If it were about policies, then we will see the policies of what Azimio stood for being injected into the government. We will have seen the likes of Opio Wandai. We will have seen the likes of who is this other guy, Ali Hassan Joho, Wycliffe Oparanya, now injecting what they believed as Azimio into the service they are offering the people through the cabinet positions they have. But now we see, and this is common practice again in Kenya, that after they join, now they become part of the cheering squad of the president. Now they do not change him, they now join him. And that is dangerous.
Back him up.
Yeah, and back him up. Now, if we could have, for instance, and I'm not saying this is what will happen, if the contents of which was discussed between the current president and the fifth and the former, recently were to join arms, then it also means what the president the fourth through his statement purported to have advised. The president might also collapse, because now they will join arms and say now all is good.
Right.
We have also seen people who have left the government and now gone to the opposition, but in reality it could also be they have left the government and joined the opposition because their interest was not taken care of. So my point is, as the people, we are on our own, as it were on the 25th of June.
Right.
I believe we are still on our own.
Yeah, and you know, you've mentioned about being realistic. You know, even if these four individuals, you know, from the opposition joined the cabinet, there will be no possible way that they will preach something that the bottom-up economic agenda does not believe in. You know, and so one would think they had no other choice. You know, you've been given this job, you have no other choice but to support the bottom-up agenda, regardless of what you thought about it at first. Isn't that just the realistic?
It is just the reality on the ground. That we have leaders who believe that leadership is about opposition, which is not true. I mean, the leader of official opposition is a leader by all means. And I think that is part of what we should institutionalize, that make the leader of opposition, or I mean the office of the leader of the opposition, an office that is recognized by the constitution and that is mainstreamed And that is because as we have it now, it is neither here nor there. I can wake up one day and say, now I'm the leader of opposition. Murara can wake up one day and say, I'm the leader of opposition. Okiya Omtata can wake up one day and say, which by all rights they are, because they are leaders in the opposition. But do we have an office of the leader of the opposition? So I think that is what will make the difference, so that we do not have leaders whose only ambition is to get into government by whatever means. So I think that is why you see that an MP who is elected or a senator who is elected by the people whom he represents will choose in an instance to abandon that and join the government, because we have glorified these positions. And if you look at it this way, I think Kenya is one of the few countries in the world, or maybe without even looking so much at African countries, because again we are really pathetic in our culture of politics. But looking at it, you will see that Kenya is one of the countries that has very highly paid politicians, which again is dangerous in itself. Because now, if you have very incentivized people who have given very high incentives as politicians, then they lose it, and the only thing that they now think of is how they can get to these positions, not to serve, but to gain from them. But if we had very moderate pay, or maybe something that is of good standard as pay or remuneration for these people, then we will see leaders who want to serve, because now they have achieved what they have achieved in their professions, and they think what they have achieved as professionals in whatever areas they are, then they can inject it into service for the people. Yes.
Right, interesting feature there by one Cynthia Nanjala. Many thanks for keeping me company. And of course, that particular part 2 of that particular feature will come your way tomorrow during the Christian World. My name is Martin Macharia signing off. Do have yourself a lovely day, or rather a lovely night. Enjoy the rest of your viewing, and good night. Let's meet again when God says we do.